Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon, and welcome to the Autistic Acoustics podcast. I'm, of course, here with Raymond
Hello.
and Emery.
Howdy.
And today we're deciding to talk about how the school system impacted us as people on the spectrum. And I guess one thing I would like to start out with is just it was very different than it is today. I would say they didn't have a good understanding of it when I was in school. I think both middle school and high school were moments in my life where they didn't have that great of an understanding of it. But what I would like to know is how it impacted you guys specifically. So whichever one of you wants to start, feel free.
Yeah, I can start. So one thing that really affected me is autism is unfortunately very underdiagnosed for specifically females. It is more diagnosed in men because all of the studies were done by men. So growing up going through school, I had a really hard time focusing. I was trying to understand not only my schoolwork but social cues, which I wasn't really great at, and there wasn't as much help for people who are autistic back when I was even in elementary school or school in general, um, until probably about middle school, high school is really when a lot of programs started being more helpful instead of just, "Oh, you're autistic, you're special. You were just gonna shove you in a room with everybody else."
Yeah, I guess that tracks. I luckily wasn't shoved in a room with everybody else, but we did have that room at my high school. Which fun little fact for new listeners, I went to high school with Raymond. So I at least remember that they had that type of room, but I don't think it was for people who were on the spectrum. I think it was for like we're special. They are special. There's like
I
ranks to this.
think that was maybe like a calm down room or something.
I mean, I guess I think it was also just a room uh for those who were more on the other end of the spectrum than us.
No, I definitely agree. We are on the more high functioning end of the autism spectrum. And I feel like that almost, it doesn't necessarily what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like, oh, haha, I can do more things than other people who have autism. Um, but I didn't have as much trouble learning in school or understanding really main school topics. It was the socialism things that were happening in school, or if I needed a little bit more time just because of having ADHD and autism, I have two different sensory processing disorders. So it was kind of hard for me to learn in school. But because I'm so high functioning, most people just thought I was lazy or I didn't want to do my schoolwork. It's not that I didn't want to do schoolwork, it's just I could not do it in the same setting as my other classmates who didn't have autism or ADHD. And I feel like because we are so high functioning, most people just expect us to kind of deal with it and move on because we're not what typical media portrays people as having autism to be.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point. I guess when I was diagnosed, it was more like I didn't feel like I was getting viewed as having autism. I kind of got the feeling that I was viewed as, again, as you said, being lazy and just not interested in school. Like, I could get interested in things. It's just a lot of the things that they were trying to get me interested in, I guess for me specifically, it was explained in a really boring way. And I feel like that's a pretty common problem in the school system nowadays, is that like if you want to make somebody interested in something, you discuss it like this is something that actually fascinates you, not like going into a school setting and just looking at your students and being like, all right, everybody, we're going to learn about history today. See, history is really important, and they're saying that with like a monotoned tone of voice. It doesn't make me want to learn anything. It just makes me feel like this is a burden.
Mm. Mm.
But
How do you feel, Ray?
yeah, how do you feel, Ray? I want to know how you feel about this.
Well, let's see. I was diagnosed, I think, way back in like elementary school or maybe even preschool. My parents noticed that I was taking longer to start speaking than most kids. I like started speaking like yeah, like when do most kids start like talking, like 2 or 3 or something?
You should be able to form at least basic sentences by about 3 years old.
Okay, yeah, I don't even know if I was speaking at 3 years old, which was a bit of a tip off to my parents, and so the school system didn't do anything in that regard. Even when it was like I think like pointed out, my parents had to go like for outside therapy in order to actually like have me diagnosed.
So they didn't even register it.
Well, actually, that's not true. Once I was diagnosed and officially had a diagnosis, my parents were actually able to get. I think there's like a teacher occasionally keeping watch over me or like tapping my desk if I was getting distracted. Reminder: I do not have ADHD. I think I only have autism. So
So it's like I guess your experience with autism would definitely be a lot more different than, for example, me and Emery's with autism, because we
mm,
both have autism and ADHD.
mm,
But yeah, no, I think it was, for me specifically, I guess one of the instances I can remember about being on the spectrum was that I would say me being on the spectrum isn't what hindered my learning to an extent. It's how people treated me when it came to
mm.
learning something. Because I'm about to drop a little bit of Brandon lure, and hopefully, if my mom is listening to this, sorry in advance. But I was not allowed to cook when I was in high school because my disability was viewed as like, oh, he's not going to know what he's doing correctly and he's going to be a danger to people around him. So they prohibited me from using uh the stove, and specifically added a funny little word which I cannot mention because I don't want this video to get taken down.
Did
So
teachers say this?
no, teacher did not say this. I want to emphasize that. Teachers never said this, but other students definitely did.
Mm,
I think the worst part is the teachers didn't do anything about it.
mm. Or like the teachers didn't let you use the stove, and then other kids just said that to you.
Well, it's just the fact that they didn't even register that they weren't letting, it wasn't even the teacher who wasn't letting me use the stove. It was the other
Mm,
students, and then the fact that they they saw this happening. I've seen her
mm.
looking over at me when this was happening. She just didn't do anything about it. And don't get
Ugh.
me wrong, I get it. You don't get paid enough to deal with that, but it's also I'm going to cooking class to learn cooking, you know? Like even if that's a thing people are worried about, it shouldn't hinder the fact that that's basically affecting my education.
A messed up school system. It sounds like a very bad system that you experienced there.
Yeah,
Jeez.
definitely. I mean, I guess the other thing is that I've had to explain this to teachers, and by explain this, I mean I feel like people can relate to this when somebody just is not listening and they're doing everything within their power to just do one thing or the other and not find a middle ground.
Hmm.
I had that experience with, I can't remember exactly. I think it was graphic design. I had this in my graphic design class, and this was a new teacher we had.
Hmm.
And my gosh, I can't wait to tell this story because it's actually really funny. So I got to multiple points with this teacher where, as cordial as I might sound, I did raise my voice
Hmm.
to an extent where people in the hallway could hear me. And it was mainly
Yeah.
because I was either getting treated like I did not exist, so I would ask for assistance with my assignments, like, hey, can you explain this better? Because I don't understand what you're saying. And I would raise my hand and everything. She would just ignore me.
Hmm.
Or she would treat me like I was, as I said earlier, the special kind of special, where I should
Hmm.
be in all likelihood under supervision 24/7 because I'm not cognitively able of functioning as a proper human being. And
I hate it when the school system does that.
yeah, and so
Mhm.
it's funny because it got to a point where I mentioned this. I yelled at this person and they got into contact with my mom. Now, my mom immediately took my side because I explained to her specifically, like, I'm just trying to be viewed as like an equal here to an extent of like I need extra help when you're explaining something, and I don't think that's too much to ask. But the fact that it felt that way is kind of what upset me, I would say, because it didn't make me it didn't make me feel like I was a human being. It's demoralizing.
Mhm.
But
I did have a question for everybody.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
know. We are going to get a little political here, guys. Sorry. I know, like, normally we wouldn't bring politics into this. But I'm not sure if anybody's been paying attention, but special education is being removed from the department that it was once under, is now trying or is being passed over to the Department of Health, which means good old JFK Jr. is going to be in charge of it. And I think someone who had a brain eating worm should not be in charge of any sort of education. And like
Just
it
to
was already no, go for it, Ray.
just to relate this to autism, he specifically, isn't he one of the people who believes vaccines genuinely cause autism?
Tylenol being taken by pregnant women increases your chance of becoming autistic once you're born. He also believes that all autistic people, and you guys can go if you want to go and research it on your own, or the viewers or listeners. He was clipped honestly about this time last year saying that autistic people will never hold jobs, they'll never pay taxes, they'll never be able to play baseball, use the bathroom unassisted. I feel like this evilization of autism because of the current administration is honestly going to hurt future generations of people who are autistic, because it was already so hard for us growing up with autism. Like, how is this going to affect people like the kids who are autistic? Like, I've got nieces and nephews who are still going through school who are autistic and are going to need help, and if this keeps getting evilized like it is, how hard is it going to be for, the younger generations if autism is seen as this big bad thing because, we're stupid is the nice way of saying it, is what everybody thinks is that autism people are stupid. There are actually a lot of people who have autism who are super duper smart.
listen, the job thing, that's messed up. The baseball thing, okay, I'll admit to that. I kind of suck at that. like I for some reason it triggers my fight or flight reflex where like if somebody hucks a ball at me, I instinctively like flinch up. And it's not even like I know they're not trying to hurt me with the ball, but like
Yeah, but he's saying like we will lack autism, like autistic people lack the ability to learn how to play baseball, which is not the case.
Or
that is
maybe he was
true.
also like generalizing it across every sport ever as well, which
Yeah,
I made varsity high school swim team.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Ray's a prime example of that.
yeah.
But one thing that I was going to say, as I was originally saying, was again on my story, was that my mom was called in. My mom took my side for that. It happened again, probably like I think it was like a week or two later. Security at our school, because our school had security, was called in. They took my side, which I thought was pretty funny because I was kind of chill with the security there. But like when I explained it to them, they were like, "Yeah, no, that's just not right." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Is I just want to be treated like an equal."
that had to feel pretty validating, at least.
Yeah, it was, and it was especially validating when she called the principal. The principal didn't even show up, so that was pretty funny. I was just like, dude, you have to understand, if there is any way of saying you're in the wrong here, the fact that they didn't bother to show up tells a lot.
Yeah.
Like, they just didn't want to deal with that, and you know what? I don't blame them. I didn't want to deal with it either. As you were saying with the whole
Dehumanization of autistic people.
dehumanization of autistic people. Gosh, I can speak, guys. I promise. English is my first language, even though it's the most complex one in the dictionary for some reason. It shouldn't be, but it is. I can understand that to an extent because I kind of just get the feeling at points where I'm just not viewed as a human. I'm kind of viewed as like an
Mm.
animal or something. And I guess it got to a point for me personally where and I hope that this never happens to anybody else. This is a personal Brandon problem where I've just kind of come to accept it and expect the worst
Mm.
with that, which people shouldn't do. Don't expect the worst. Don't learn from my example. Don't be me. But I've come to understand that like it's different for everybody. And I guess the moment that people like dehumanize each other over something as simple as, well, it's not simple, but something like autism, which is basically just thinking differently or taking longer to think. I don't really see that as a disability. I just see that as a difference. And I mean, yeah, for some people it can be a disability, but at the same time, it's like, well, we're human beings. We kind of learn to adapt and adjust as things happen.
Mhm.
So that shouldn't really be any
Also,
different here.
it's also called autism spectrum disorder for a reason.
Ex-
Crazy enough, it's not binary. You are autistic or not autistic. You can. There's levels to the autism. Crazy idea.
I will just bring up as someone who has worked in healthcare and has seen every age from infant to elderly of people who have had autism. It's definitely like things are definitely changing, and I don't know if they're changing for the better or if they're
Hmm.
changing for the worse, but I really, really hope that in the future kids who are autistic have the opportunity to get better help than what we had in school. You know, people are more understanding, they're not dehumanizing them. But at the end of the day, just because someone is autistic does not mean that you need to treat them worse just because you need to, you know, you may need to repeat yourself 2 or 3 times, or you may have to go things a little bit slower. Um, we still deserve to be treated like every n- stereotypical, not neurospicy people.
Like neurotypical.
Yeah, neurotypical. Yep, that's the word.
yeah, I feel like the moment we stop treating others like that, the moment it's going to get a lot better because it's kind of weird that that's just become a thing for some people to just treat them like that. I don't know. I've never understood it because like the main reason these problems occur or arise is because you're getting treated differently in the first place. And if I'm gonna just say it, if everybody's created equal, we should treat everybody equal.
Mhm.
You know,
Hmm.
I feel like that's a good line of thinking to have, and that's kind of the line of thinking I have.
Yeah.
Of course, like that's not to say that we can like autism can be completely ignored either, because like we genuinely will need to be treated somewhat differently. But in the sense of like you might need to repeat yourself. You might need to explain things more clearly, et cetera, et cetera.
It's a complex thing. You have to think about it in both ways.
Hmm.
At the same time, it's teachers' job to ensure all kids get a good education. It's part of the job description.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's the other thing too, is it's like if you're a teacher and you're wanting to adapt and make learning as accessible for everybody as possible, then you should at least have a strategy for the specific levels of people on the spectrum you have, like not saying treat them differently, but like, explain something a little bit more in depth.
Basically, at the end of the day, I want to see future generations of people going through school getting treated better and people just being treated better in general. Just because my brain works differently from yours or someone else's brain works differently doesn't mean anyone should be treated less than your average normal thinking human being. And I think everyone can agree with me on that.
I can definitely agree with you on that.
And with that, this is Emery signing off.
And with that, this is Brandon signing off.
And Raymond is also signing off then.